So my name is Ellen Egger-Imany. I've known Joe for a number of years. We worked together on the last Bernie campaign, and we've been leading Saratoga Progressive Action for, I guess, almost 4 years, right? Something like that. I'm just going to speak real quick and talk about Aaron. Aaron Mayer is here to introduce Joe. Aaron is a epidemiological spatial analyst, environmentalist, and the 57th National President of the Sierra Club. He's an advocate for environmental justice and activist in the Arbor Hill, New York community. He was responsible for the creation of the W. Haywood Burns Environmental Education Center and the Arbor Hill Environmental Justice Corporation. He lives in Schenectady, New York, and works for the New York State Department of Health. Aaron has been an activist in arms with Joe Seeman for probably 20 plus years. Please welcome Aaron Mayer.
Now I have 2 pages here, and as they would say, I'm not going to do these full 2 pages because, again, I wanted to leave the spotlight for the candidate. So let me give a couple of disclosures. I am not speaking in any of my official capacity as an employee of New York State or New York State Department of Health, so I am not here representing that. Nor am I speaking in my official capacity as a director on the National Sierra Club. So I want to make sure that that is clear. I am speaking as a concerned citizen, an activist, and somebody who really cares about our democracy. And I want to talk a little bit about the character of the man and the urgency of the moment right now. We have, at the national level, the so-called battle against the deep state. There's extreme carnage language and a draining of the swamp. Well, anybody who's an environmentalist or scientist knows that our ecological wetlands are what filters our water, cleans our air, takes out a lot of toxins, and is very forgiving because we, humanity, puts that into the wetlands. Now, the term swamp is a corporate term to define wetlands so that they can pave it over, destroy it, to serve their own idiosyncratic or private property benefit, a developer term. So we have a developer mentality at the national level, we have a developer mentality at the state level, and that's why it is critical when we talk about restoring the wetlands, restoring our democracy, restoring our health. We need critical people who are dedicated to that principle to come in and, as I say, and lead the people. Because again, it is those wetlands that's not a swamp that filter out the toxins of our civil society, of our culture, of a lot of bad things that can happen. And if we get good stewards elected, like Joe Seeman to the 112th district, then these are this is the vital critical infrastructure to filter out those toxins. And this is the culture that we need right now to restore our democracy. This is not about red or blue. It's about green. And when we talk about green, green is the ecology that basically deals with all of our collective humanity. Joe Seeman has been a soldier in the field to clean up the toxics within our society with regards to racism, sexism, and all forms of oppression, but also just representation for you, the people. Joe is the best asset that we can send forward to the state of New York to correct a lot of the ills that not just at the national level, but also within the state. We got to talk about a national Green New Deal, but we also have to talk about the New Deal within New York State. That Green New Deal begins at home, and Joe Seeman is that principal leader. A lot of people don't realize the first New Deal was experimented right here in the capital region within the Adirondacks. There's something called the Civilian Conservation Corps under then Governor Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He experimented with putting underemployed people, young people, old people, back to work. And they restored and built critical infrastructure that we enjoy to this day in the Adirondacks. But that model served to set up our national park system to be, as I said, the most emulated around the world. So it says that if government invests in the people and giving them clean, green jobs, they can build the critical infrastructure to restore our democracy. But the only way that that can be done is if we elect Joe Seeman to the 112th Assembly District. Ladies and gentlemen, without any ado, I welcome our brother Joe to restore our wetlands, to bring the Green New Deal, to bring the fire, to restore our democracy.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Aaron, for the kind words. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Joe Seeman, and I'm running for New York State Assembly here in the 112th District. I'm a father, a husband, and a grandfather. I've lived here in Saratoga County for over 30 years. My children grew up here. They went to the public schools here. I retired after a long career as a proud union member working for the state of New York. And you may know me as a longtime volunteer advocate and organizer in the movement for democracy, peace, justice, and the economic interests of average people. For clean energy and protecting our planet. For peace and an end to the endless wars for oil and corporate profits. For equal opportunity for all, and for an end to the scourge of racism and bigotry. For health care for all. For the economic interests of the 99%. Many of us have stood together. We've stood together with Move On, with Citizen Action of New York, with Occupy Albany, with Indivisible, Saratoga Progressive Action, and many other groups. And we volunteered on numerous campaigns, from Kirsten Gillibrand to Barack Obama to Tedra Cobb. We've protested outside big money fundraisers, waving mops and brooms, with signs calling for money out of politics and for cleaning up corruption. We were once outside a Joe Bruno fundraiser in Troy and a Shelley Silver fundraiser in Albany on the very same cold winter night. And today I'm running to represent the people of Saratoga and Schenectady counties, to give all of us a voice in our state government. And let me tell you why I'm running, why I'm not. I'm not running to start a long political career. A bit too late for that. I'm certainly not running because I've got big money backers funding a big war chest. Nope, that's not why. I'm running to keep fighting for what I've been fighting for all my life. For our children's future, for our communities, for our shared American values. To have those values put into action in the budget and the priorities of our New York government. Now, did you know that if New York were a separate nation, it would be the 13th largest economy in the world? Well, this means that New York can be a world leader in climate action, producing our own clean, renewable energy right here, which comes along with good paying jobs that can't be outsourced. This means that New York can lead the nation and ensure that every one of us has access to the health care that we need. And we can make upstate New York a place where people want to move to, not move away from. A place where our children can place their roots and raise their children here too. We can take on the political corruption that Albany is infamous for and empower ordinary voters, not big money donors, so that Albany can work for us, for our families, and not for the profits of those donors. So, what type of a campaign are we going to run? We'll run a campaign that we all can be proud of. A campaign that brings civility back into politics. We won't resort to immature name-calling, immature put-downs. We're better than that, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
That's right, we are. We view the incumbent as a competitor, not as an enemy. We are all equals, and we commit to a campaign of mutual respect. And we will win. We'll win by talking with our neighbors. From Clifton Park to Galway, from Scotia to Ballston Spa, all across this district. We'll have public town halls in every town. And the incumbent, she's invited to join us too. People of all beliefs, all backgrounds, all parties or no parties, all are invited to join us in respectful, civil, meaningful discussions about what our values are, about what we can do together for our children's future. And that future, a stable climate, good health, good educations, good paying jobs, good relations with our neighbors, and a voice in our democracy. That's the future we want for all of our children, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
So I'd like to hear from all the people, and I hope the incumbent would too. Now, our grassroots campaign won't take any corporate PAC money. We won't take any billionaire money. And I wouldn't even be in the same political party as anyone who would take money or help from a foreign power.
Yes.
So I won't be beholden to these corrupting special interests, not one iota. Win or lose, we will build stronger connections with our neighbors. We will build increased participation in our democracy. But win we will.
Right.
And I've worked my butt off all my life, raising a family, making a living, and organizing democracy in action. And now I'm ready to work harder than ever. But because we don't have the money of the richest 1% behind us, we need all of us to get involved. We will win. We will give the people of this district a voice if we together build a people-powered, roll-up-your-sleeves, citizen-to-citizen campaign of down-home democracy. Are we ready to fight for real democracy? Are we ready to fight for the voice of the people to be heard louder than the money of the corporate lobbyists? To fight for a New York government by and for us, the 99%.
Yeah.
Are we ready? So I'm ready too. And thanks everyone. This is the end of my talk, but this is the beginning of one heck of a grassroots campaign. And I hope you're all along for the ride. And I'd be happy to take questions.
The nuts and bolts for governing involve things like trying to figure out how the state's going to close the $6 billion deficit. What are your thoughts on how that should be done?
Great question. Well, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to close some of those loopholes that allow the rich, the billionaires on Wall Street, not to pay their fair share. So you may know, when you go to the store, you buy a cup of coffee, buy a pair of shoes, you're paying a sales tax. Each and every one of you. But on Wall Street, when they sell stocks, there's no tax. Well, actually there is. There's a tax on the books. It's 0.25% stock transfer tax. But the tax has been rebated for the past 30 years or so. And that's not right. So we're going to find every loophole that corporations get, that the rich get, that they use to avoid paying tax. We're going to close all those loopholes. And you probably know that in New York City, there are lots of multi-million dollar apartments that the very rich use to come visit once a year. I mean, they're not there very often. Those are called pied-à-terres. And we're going to fight to have a pied-à-terre tax. The tax goes empty apartments that also further worsens the housing problems that we have. So we're going to cut back the giveaways. We know that over the past few decades, we've seen our tax laws change, and unfortunately not too often for the better. So we're going to roll back all the tax giveaways to the rich. And we're going to do much more. We all know what insurance companies are, right? And insurance companies exist for the sole purpose of having a deep pocket. They don't actually cure us of our ills, they just pay the bills. Now, New York State has just a deep pocket as the insurance companies. So why the heck are we paying corporate welfare to those insurance companies when we don't need them to insure our public employees? Our state employees, our town employees, our county, even our school district employees, we can insure them with public health insurance that will cost us half of what the insurance companies are charging us. And we'll be able to lower our property tax and our school taxes too. There's a lot of things we can do to close that budget gap. We know that in Massachusetts they've legalized cannabis, and people from upstate New York are going there, and we're not collecting those taxes. So we're going to try and make things fair and have regulated and taxed legalized cannabis in New York. These are some of the many ideas that we're going to need to close that budget gap. And again, I want to tell you, I'm running here not because I have all the answers. I'm not a career politician. I'm a first-time candidate. But I want to hear the voice of the people, to hear what everyone here in the district, the people of Saratoga and Schenectady County, what all the people here have to say, what they think we need to do to balance our budget.
Other questions from anybody? Comments? Questions?
I just got new license plates. Had to give up my Florida plates. I'm officially a New York State resident as of yesterday. It sounds insane, but I do things backwards. One thing I've noticed, I don't know if this goes through the assembly or not, is that we've got the ugliest f***ing license plates in the country. Ugliest plates in the country. Why not open it up like other states? They've got hundreds of plates and they're cheap. Here it's 120 every 2 years, plus the price of the plate, simply to have a blue and white plate. Why not something that in the Adirondack region, you don't have to be a member of the, you don't have to be a hunter or a registered fisherman to get a plate that says Adirondacks. You gotta have that here. I live further north of here. We should have that. We should have all kinds of things that are positive messages like, you know, on the plates, like New York State, the future is here. You know, things like that, rather than just things that look like, we know they're printed in the Auburn prison. They look like they come from prison. I mean, it's our image that we got to work on too. So I hope that I'll write the letter once you're in office.
Talk about prisons and license plates. We're also going to try and reduce mass incarceration. And let's remember how much money it costs to keep people in jail. So that's one of the many ideas. We're going to be hearing from people like Joe with his ideas. We're going to be hearing from everybody for your ideas on the very big issues, the issues of climate change and the future of our planet, and the small issues about our license plates and the little things going on in our towns. So this is going to be a campaign that's going to be your voice, and when elected, I'll really be your voice. And we're just getting started now. We're going to have lots of opportunities to hear more, to think more, to come up with new ideas. And remember, whatever ideas we're going to have, they'll be coming from average people. This is not going to be a campaign where we'll be meeting with Wall Street lobbyists. Nope, they can find somebody else to tell how they want New York to be run. This is going to be a campaign of ideas from average people, people of the district, people of upstate New York.
What are your thoughts on the bail reform law, Joe?
Sure. Well, the bail reform law, good question. I think that if someone is a flight risk, if there's evidence they're a flight risk, or if someone is a danger to our community, then keep them in jail, regardless of whether they're rich or they're poor. And that's what bail reform is about. It's about making sure that we have fair treatment. And perhaps we need to give more discretion to judges and improve upon the laws. You know, I was one of the people, many of us were there too, this past year in the legislature. We went to the Capitol. We went to the Legislative Office Building in Albany. We knocked on the doors of our legislator, and we talked to them about the legislation that we've been fighting for years, some of which finally passed this year, right? And we have more work to do. So we can take the legislation that we began with, the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. That's just a start, but we have more to do. Bail reform, that's just a start. We can make some changes and give the judges more discretion. Many of the laws, we passed early voting. Did anybody vote early this year? Yeah. Well, we have more work to do. We want automatic voter registration. How's about that? Yeah. How's about real campaign finance reform? Yeah. We need that. So we're going to take bail reform and the laws that we fought for in the past year, and we're going to take that further. Good. And that's why I'm running.
Offshore wind. New York State has the largest coastal waterfront, one of the largest coasts in the country. And we're leaving billions of dollars behind in generating revenue and clean energy, but yet we're preferring natural gas and being a transport for natural gas. Your ideas on leading on clean energy and offshore wind and putting New York in the lead.
Sure. So I think our young people have been telling us the severity of the crisis of climate change. We've seen hurricanes devastate us here on the East Coast. We've seen terrible fires in California. We've seen the terrible, terrifying fires that are happening in Australia right now as we speak. So we need to be a leader. And we need to have offshore wind. That's a tremendous potential that we've hardly explored. That's a huge way we can generate clean energy. We need to have solar power, solar photovoltaic cells. We need to have geothermal power. It's a way we can heat our homes, bring the energy, the heat right out from under the ground. There's many different types and ways that we can build a clean energy economy. There's a lot of what we call the low-hanging fruit in conservation, in energy efficiency. Maybe that's the first thing we should be doing. But let's remember that when we take the money that we're spending, each one of us, we go to the gas pumps, we fill up, or we pay our national grid bill. Where is that money going? It's going into the pockets of some big corporations, foreign corporations, billionaires. And now imagine if all that money that we're spending on energy stayed right here. So we not only be leading the nation and maybe leading the world in transitioning to the energy that we need. Tidal power, wind power, solar power, all that clean energy, but we'd be keeping our money right here. That money means the money that you're spending that now going to billionaire corporations will stay in our communities, money that will be used, spent here, and will be used to create good paying jobs. So I don't know if any of you have adult kids here. Anybody maybe has a kid who's moved out of the area, or maybe you're worried about your kids moving out of the area. So to keep our communities together, to build the economy of upstate New York, that's why we need to transition to a total clean energy economy. That's what I'm going to fight for. You know, many of us see many things going on. We see there are threat of another war with another oil-producing nation. And many of the people here, back in 2002, 2003, were warning of the nightmare that will be, and we're saying, instead of spending all that money on war, let's spend the money and transition to clean renewable energy. So it's what we need for our upstate economy, for our future, and even for our national security. So that's what it's all about, folks.
All right.
Any other questions?
Any last questions?
Okay, go ahead. Stand
go
up,
ahead.
speak.
Thanks. I just wanted to say, Joe, thank you very much. I've worked with you for the past few years. You're a tireless advocate. You're an incredible political leader, and I appreciate your values, and I so appreciate that you're throwing your hat in the ring.
You guys have questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
I'm reading more and more how more of the western part of the state want to leave New York City.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? And I'm reading more and more
Well,
about
sure,
it. So.
sure. We've seen divisiveness. We've seen people tell us, oh, your enemy are those people down there. And we all know that maybe New York City, people associate with Asians, African Americans, Hispanics, Jews, gay people. That's really what it's all about. When they tell us that New York City are our enemies, that's all baloney. We are all the same. The working class people, the average people of upstate New York, the people of Buffalo, the people of New York City, the people of Albany, the people of Schenectady, the people of Boston Spa, the people all over this state, we have common interests. And that's the future we're going to build for our New York. Thanks everybody. I want to thank everybody. I want to throw out a couple of quick shout outs to Ellen Egger-Imony, who has done tremendous work here. To Ansel Ash, who's done great work on our materials on the website. And to everyone here, remember, I'm just the candidate. The campaign is not me, it's us.
Thank you everyone for coming. There's coffee in the back if anybody wants a cup of coffee before you leave. Please make sure you've signed in. We are taking donations and we want your help on the campaign. So expect a call from us.
Show you something about live.